Metrology made easy for the hobbyist, gunsmith, machine shop, tinker, and you. Metrology accessories equate to better parts by AMPG. I believe I have an interesting video for you today. It's actually going to be part of a series of videos that my colleagues have asked me to produce that has to do with measuring tool accessories. I'd like to introduce you to some unique, innovative products made here in the USA that will enable you to get more productivity from some of the pieces of measuring equipment that you probably already own. I'd like to talk about quality and what it is, and basically I define it as conformance to a standard. To quote Benjamin Franklin, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten." In order to accomplish this, we need to understand a tiny bit of metrology. The world of metrology means the scientific study of measurement. Although the basic objectives of measurement is to provide the required accuracy at a minimum cost, metrology has further objectives. How about simply making the part correctly at the least amount of cost? A bit of history first. Modern metrology has its roots in the French Revolution's political motivations to standardize units in France, when a length standard taken from a natural source was produced. This led to the creation of the decimal-based metric system in 1795, establishing a set of standards for other types of measurements. Several other countries adopted this system between 1795 and 1875. But we're going to focus on applied or technical metrology. Applied technical metrology is concerned with the application of measurement and ensuring that the suitability of the measurement process and instruments. Producing good measurements is important. It has an impact on the value and quality of the end product, and in many cases a 10 to 20% impact on production costs. Right now, what we're going to do today in series number 1 is talk about a measuring tool accessory that you are going to find very, very handy, and it's a 22-piece dial indicator point kit. What I have in front of you today is a stand with a group 2 indicator indicating that it's approximately 2 inches on the face. It has a travel of 1 inch, and each small line is 1/1000th of an inch. It is sitting in a stand that has a fine adjustment on it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is make certain that this dial indicator is accurate. I'm going to lock it down and I'm going to zero it and put a standard in that I know to be correct, which is a gauge block that is 100,000ths of an inch. And as you can see, once I put that gauge block on there, it will return to 1,000th of an inch. So I feel very, very comfortable that this dial indicator is correct. So let's get to some measuring right now. Today, I have a number of items that we're going to measure and demonstrate. I have a key, I have a number of shells and cartridges, I have a nut, and I have a trigger assembly. But I'm going to give you an example of why I believe that these dial indicator accessories really are important to you. And they will wring out the juice from this dial indicator. They will make it perform at a much, much higher level than you could ever do before. All American indicators, AGD group indicators, come with a point on there that has a radius on it. And for most things, it's acceptable. You can put it on something flat, you can put it on something round, and it works just fine. If I was to take this indicator and put it on top of the stand, if I was to zero out my stand and I was to make a measurement of this nut, you could see that I've gone around, and if you count the revolutions with the rev counter, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we're looking at over here is a measurement that is very, very easy to take using this dial indicator point. However, if I was to try to measure the depth of this nut, the groove in there, this would simply not fit in. So how do I get around that? Well, very, very easy. I'm going to unscrew this point. This point, according to American gauge design standards on all indicators sold in the United States, has a 4/48 thread. It's a number 4 with 48 threads per inch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this point out of my 22-piece dial indicator point kit. I'm going to screw it into the indicator. I'm going to then raise my indicator just a little bit to give me enough range. I'm going to take my indicator and I'm going to zero it out. I'm going to put the nut in here because the diameter of that point is 60 thou, and it fits very, very nicely into the slot. And as you can see, we can ascertain a measurement, and the measurement, if once again we were to go around, would be 1, 2, 3, 300 thousandths of an inch. As you can see, my indicator is zeroed out at 300 thousandths of an inch, but it reads 0 on here, but I know based on my rev counter that it's 300 thousandths of an inch. I'm going to put the nut on there now. I'm going to slide it into the groove, and as you can see, the measurement is 295 thousandths of an inch, the width of that slot. I'm going to go to the next slot, and you can see it's approximately, again, 295 thousandths. Now, you would not be able to do that with the standard dial indicator point kit that you have that comes with the indicator. The next example that I'm going to do is put in another point. And now what I'm going to do is put in this precision block. I'm going to lower the dial indicator onto the actual primer of this shell. I'm going to lock it. I'm going to zero it. And I'm going to measure the actual dimple in the 223 shell. Right now I'm at 0. I'm in the dimple, and I can see that the dimple is approximately 10 thousandths of an inch. If I had the regular dial indicator point kit on there, there'd be no way that I could measure the depth of that particular dimple. Now, why is that important? Because if the dimple is not deep enough, you will have light primer strikes. If it's too deep, the primer could explode, bringing hot gases back into your face. So there's a specification on it. So in this particular case, what we've been able to do is just simply measure the base of the primer and then go back down into the dimple of the primer and measure it. We can do the same thing with any other shell. Right over here I have a shell casing from a 17 HMR. And what I'm going to do is once again zero this. And I can see that it's at 0. I'm going to bring it down into the actual dimple, and you can see that I have approximately 4/1000ths of an inch. The last example that I'm going to do is use a common key. Now, you and I all know that this common key has slots in it, and once again, there would be no way to measure it with the radius on the standard ball that came with this dial indicator point kit. So what I am going to do right now is measure that slot, and I can see that that slot is approximately 36/1000ths of an inch. If I was to look at deviation from nominal or look at the top of the key, I could see the differential between that as well. So getting back to the dial indicator point kit, what we have once again are 22 pieces, and I just want to go through them very, very quickly with you. We have flat points. We have points that are smaller in diameter. We have points that are flat and shorter. We have points that are flat and medium length. We have conical points. We have conical points in different lengths. And a whole host of products that will once again fit every single application. We also have a point that will be a roller point, is a roller point, so you can see some in-process work. One of the other points that is really, really, really a critical point is this offset point. And this offset point, as you can see by its name, is offset. So it gives you the ability to go into something from the side. So it also has capability to measure things like this. If you wanted to measure thickness, you could put this in a stand and actually measure the wall diameter, measuring the top and measuring the bottom. The last part that I'm going to use is a trigger assembly. And this trigger assembly, as you can see, is a very, very complicated mechanism, and it is an adjustable mechanism, and this happens to be a Remington trigger. But at the end of the day, if you wanted to make measurements, you could not make all of the measurements that you would want to make with the regular dial indicator point. So I strongly suggest that if you want to really maximize the use of your dial indicator and be able to use it on a myriad of parts, I would strongly suggest that this very inexpensive dial indicator point kit is for you. It's made out of a very resistant stainless steel, and they come in many sizes as well as the ones that you see here for special applications. This dial indicator point kit, as I indicated, has the ability to work with abrasive parts as well, and we find that those are made out of 416 hardened stainless. The average kit is an 18/8 stainless, and there's also, my understanding, available a 11-piece mini kit. I'd like to leave you with a quote by a gentleman named James Harrington. And Mr. Harrington said, if you can't measure something, you can't understand it. If you can't understand it, you can't control it. And if you can't control it, you cannot improve it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, the first in a series, and we'll have more videos coming to you, things on dial calipers, extensions, how to measure center to center, and common things for the four most common tools that we believe you already own, which would be a micrometer, a height gauge, a caliper, whether it's a dial caliper or a digital caliper, and most assuredly the dial indicator. This is Ira signing off. Thank you.